I've been in the tree care industry for about 17 years, and a few years ago I was working during the storm. All of a sudden, with the weather, the inclement weather changing, it pushed the tree right into the power lines, and I was energized. I couldn't feel my feet for around 7 months.
So when I got it, I lift it up, and when I try to throw in front of me, the tip of the ray will hit the wires, and the electricity run through the limb and burn my back and my hands. I got hurt very bad. I should, know better. I'm lucky I'm still alive. Some people, they don't have the same luck I have.
Nearly every week, a tree worker is killed by contact with power lines, and many more are seriously injured. These deaths and injuries are preventable. We've put together this video to help you, the private tree care worker, do your job safely around overhead and underground utility lines. Please, watch carefully and share it with your team.
Safety around power lines takes more than having the right equipment and wearing the right gear. It takes awareness, initiative, and follow-through. Remember the 3 R's. Recognize the risks, review the job site, and respect the 10-foot rule. Be aware of the utility line risks involved in your work. The risk of contacting electric power lines should always be on your mind. Overhead power lines are your biggest risk exposure, and it's not only directly contacting a line with a part of your body that can hurt or kill you. Contacting a line with a tool or a tree limb or with heavy equipment can be just as deadly. You can even be shocked by simply walking near heavy equipment that's in contact with a power line.
When someone makes contact with a power line, depending upon the voltage, it can be extremely damaging and it can be fatal. If you don't die, electrical burns are a terrible injury and you're basically burned from the inside out.
To protect yourself and your crew, you must consider every overhead wire to be energized and dangerous. Death or injury can result from power lines, large or small. There is no such thing as a line that's too small to shock or kill you. Even distribution lines and service drop wires that run from utility poles to buildings can be deadly. So, treat all lines as if they are energized with potentially lethal voltage. Power lines are not insulated. Although some lines may appear to be coated, this coating is not insulation and will not protect you from electric shock. Distance is your only reliable protection from overhead power lines. You've recognized the risks. Now it's time to review the job site. After all, you can't stay away from power lines if you don't know where they are. You can save a lot of time, money, and hassle by performing some key safety actions prior to even stepping foot on the site. Before work begins, the crew foreman or designee should call PG&E to identify power line voltages. Allow enough time in the job estimate for the utility to respond. It's your responsibility to know the OSHA-required safety clearances for power lines in your work area. Once you've identified the voltage, consult the Cal OSHA website for the required safety clearance. Once at the job site, inspecting the area for power lines is essential. Your crew leader must brief you about power lines or other hazards unique to the job and must explain the correct procedures, equipment, and assignments to get the work done safely. Job briefings are required by Cal OSHA. If you have not been briefed, do not do the job. And even if you've been briefed, take the time to see for yourself, inspect the job site, and note the presence of power lines. This is the most critical safety practice for tree workers. Skip this step and you may regret it.
With electricity, we try to train all our workers to realize that they should inspect that tree themselves every single time before they climb. Walk around the tree, look at it from all sides, and look specifically for any electrical conductors.
Check the site carefully for overhead power lines, poles, and guy wires. Point them out to all of your coworkers and discuss the strategy for avoiding these hazards. Remember that tree branches and leaves can block your view of power lines. Walk 360 degrees around the tree that will be pruned to view it in its entirety. If your inspection finds overhead power lines present, take a few moments to visualize where your body, tools, and equipment will be located in relation to these lines. If any part of your body, your tools or equipment or tree limbs and branches will come within 10 feet of the line, do not do the job. You must respect the 10-foot rule. The 10-foot rule reminds you to stay at least 10 feet away from any energized power line, unless you're a qualified line clearance tree worker. These specialized workers go through intensive training and have special equipment for working close to energized lines. Qualified line clearance tree workers are certified as a result of their employer's recognized program with Cal OSHA. This certification ends when the worker leaves the qualified company. Non-qualified workers must maintain a space of at least 10 feet from all lines up to 50,000 volts. Greater voltages require even greater distance. For example, power lines carrying 500,000 volts require a safety clearance of nearly 27 feet. 10 feet is the minimum safety clearance at all times. Maintain a greater distance to ensure your body, your tools, and your equipment stay far from power lines. Keep in mind that a long tree branch can fall into power lines and conduct electricity back to you, even if you are located more than 10 feet away, or wind can carry branches into lines. Staying at least 10 feet from lines is critical when you work with ladders and long-handled tools. Always plant ladders on solid ground to avoid tipping and to prevent you, your ladder, or your tools from falling into nearby power lines. Before extending your ladder or pruning tool, always look up to ensure you will clear power lines by at least 10 feet. And when moving ladders and long tools, carry them level with ground rather than pointing upward. Never lean ladders on electric lines. And make sure that the blade and the entire length of your pruning poles are clean and free of debris to limit conduction of electricity in the event of a power line contact. Always use non-conductive fiberglass poles and ladders when working near power lines. Do not use aluminum poles, ladders, and steel core safety lanyards. Remember, your tools, equipment, and even portions of a tree should be considered an extension of your body. This goes for heavy equipment as well. Contacting a power line with any equipment is just as dangerous as with your hand. When operating bucket trucks, dump trucks, chippers, or other heavy equipment, plan a route that avoids power lines. Consider the area where you'll be raising or lowering beds and extension arms. Always use a dedicated spotter on the ground to help you stay clear of power lines. A spotter on the ground has a much better view than an equipment operator who cannot always safely judge distance from equipment to power lines. Never allow your spotter to guide a load while spotting. The spotter's only responsibility should be to keep the equipment operator clear of lines. At every job site, remember to recognize the risks, review the job site, and respect the 10-foot rule. If you will not be able to keep your body, your equipment, and all tree limbs and branches the required OSHA distance from power lines, don't do the job. Instead, call PG&E to request a safety zone clearance. PG&E's qualified tree contractors will clear a safety zone between trees and power lines above 600 volts so you can do your work safely. This service is free of charge. PG&E, with advanced scheduling, can also disconnect or de-energize service drop wires to a property to make it safe for your work to proceed. Call 1-800-PGE-5000 anytime to request voltage identification, a safety zone clearance for lines greater than 600 volts, or a temporary service disconnect. Underground utilities can pose as much of a risk as overhead power lines. You risk contacting these lines anytime you dig, whether planting trees, grinding stumps, installing ground anchors, or removing trees. Contact with a buried electrical conduit or natural gas line is not just a safety risk for you, it could cause an outage or gas leak that could endanger a whole neighborhood. If the job involves stump removal or digging of any kind, the law requires you to call 811 at least 2 working days before digging. This free service will notify underground utilities in the area of your planned work, and PG&E will locate and mark underground gas and electrical facilities. Don't take shortcuts. If you hit an overhead or underground utility, you can be hurt or killed, and you may also be liable for any damages. It just takes a little planning, but your investment in time is worth your safety and ensuring that you get the job done right. Remember, PG&E's safety zone clearances and 811 are free, and they are priceless. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, a utility contact may occur. Here's what you do. If your equipment contacts a power line, follow these steps. If you can do so safely, move the equipment away from the line. If you cannot move the equipment away from the line, stay on the equipment until utility workers say it is safe to get off. Warn others to stay far away. Anyone on the ground who touches or even just approaches the charged equipment may be injured or killed. Have someone call 911 and then PG&E at 1-800-PGE-5000 immediately. If fire or other danger forces you, jump clear from the equipment with both feet together and without touching the ground and equipment at the same time. Shuffle away with small steps. Or hop away on 2 feet, keeping both feet close together at all times. If you take long steps, your legs may conduct electricity between areas of different voltage. Stay far away from the line and anything that is touching. If one of your crew members comes into contact with a power line, do not rush in to help or touch the person, or even extend a stick or pole to them, or you could become a victim too. Stay away. Keep others away. Immediately call 911 and PG&E and wait for assistance. A natural gas pipeline leak is another possible emergency to prepare for. Natural gas leaks usually have a distinctive odor, like sulfur or rotten eggs, but not always. So don't rely on your nose alone. Look and listen for other gas leak warning signs, such as a hissing or roaring sound, dirt spraying or blowing into the air, continual bubbling in water, and grass or plants dead or dying for no apparent reason. If you suspect a gas leak, or even if you just make contact with a gas pipeline while digging, follow these steps. Leave your equipment. Warn others. Leave the area quickly and get a safe distance away. Do not use electricity or fire, as a spark could ignite the gas. Do not operate any gas pipeline valves or try to stop the flow of gas. Leave the excavation open. Call 911 and then PG&E at 1-800-PGE-5000. Stay away from the area until PG&E personnel say it is safe to return. No matter what type of utility is struck, and even if the damage seems minor, call 911, PG&E, and your supervisor immediately. Covering up a damaged gas pipe or electrical conduit, or trying to repair it on your own, could put you, your coworkers, and the public at risk. And now, let's review the key actions for ensuring your safety around electrical and gas utility lines on the job site. Call PG&E at 1-800-PGE-5000. To identify power line voltages, make sure you know the required safety clearances before work begins. Call PG&E if you need a safety zone clearance by our qualified tree contractors. Inspect the job site so you know for certain where the power lines are. Maintain a space of at least 10 feet from all lines up to 50,000 volts. Greater voltages require even greater distance. Carry ladders and long-handled tools parallel to the ground. Use a spotter when operating heavy equipment. Call 811 at least 2 working days before digging so buried utilities can be located and marked. Call 911, PG&E, and your supervisor immediately about any utility line contacts.
The risks in your job are real. Please take the time to keep yourself and your crew members safe. Remember, recognize the risks, review the job site, and respect the 10-foot rule. Thank you for watching.
This message brought to you by Pacific Gas and Electric Company.